All right, I want to chat with you about the cost of buying a home, but not necessarily just the cost of buying homes. I want to talk about the actual costs that are being collected on the buying side during this market. Because in this housing market, we're actually seeing home buyers spend a different kind of costs that were not expected. What's up, everybody? This is McKenzie Miya with the Living in Utah channel. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to learn all about what it's like to work, eat, sleep, live, and play, topics around buying and selling here in northern Utah, make sure you tap that subscribe button, click that little bell so you're notified every single time we do a new video. And we are honestly helping people every day move and relocate here to Utah, and we absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about moving anywhere in the northern Utah area, make sure you give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, days, nights, weekends. We can help make that transition so much easier on you when moving to northern Utah. Let's start off with, in essence, what is going to be the cost of buying a home regardless of whatever housing market you're going to be in. Let's address the major one, which is the down payment amount. There's a common misconception among many home buyers, especially those that are educated by their uncle who bought a house 8 years ago, that the down payment percentage you need is 20% down. And because of this, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to buy a home. Here's the easiest way to break it down. And I do want to say, talk to a lender specifically for their input. But if you're under 700 credit score, you're going to be FHA. FHA is 3.5% down. If you're over 700, you should go conventional, which can be as little as 3, 5, 10, or 20%. Again, those numbers are for a quick breakdown. It could change a little bit depending on your specific situation. For this example, let's use a $350,000 house. 3% would be this, and 3.5% would be this. So that's your down payment. The closing cost is your next one. 2 to 3% is a general number. If you're like, hey, well, maybe I can get the seller to pay the closing cost. Yeah, it's possible, but it's not likely. You're probably gonna pay your closing costs. I don't care if your brother, parents, friends got their closing costs 4 years ago. That's just the way it is right now. And if you're hoping for something to change, well, maybe it'll change, but right now, most home buyers are paying their closing costs. Home inspections are costing $300 to $500. Appraisal is gonna be around $600. And these are your standard costs. Usually there's nothing extra that pops up, and some people are gonna say, well, Kenzie, you forgot the earnest deposit. Listen, when you buy a house, there's gonna be an initial deposit you have to make when the offer is accepted. But this money gets applied towards your cash to close. What's your cash to close? It's essentially the money you need to close on the house. So using this as an example, you get an idea of what it costs to buy a house. But now in this market, how much does it cost to buy a house? A whole lot. The other day, someone messaged me and they said, is it true that houses are really selling for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 more? Yes. Unfortunately, most markets are dealing with this. Why is it happening? We have a big distribution of wealth happening right now in this country, where there's a lot of states that had a lot of people with well-paying jobs, and they're now being spread around the country. People that are buying these houses are legit people that have a lot of money because they just sold their house, and who knows wherever they're coming from, or they've just been saving their money like crazy and now they're deciding to buy here. So these people that are coming and buying these houses have money. So to them, the value of that house, wherever they're coming from, is worth a lot more than what it's listed for. So much more that they're willing to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 more, and it will continue to happen until the point where they say, you know what, I don't think the house is worth another $30,000. We're just gonna offer the list price, and then the buyer group decides to this as a whole. When will that happen? I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller, but I believe some cities will just stay more expensive to live in. So Utah is a non-disclosure state. That means that sold prices are not public record. If you want to know the selling price of a specific property, you need to work with a real estate agent or go talk to the seller directly for that information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check out the last 15 days of closings in a random area here in Utah, and I'm going to show you some of the numbers that I'm looking at. I'm not going to show you the house directly since Utah is a non-disclosure state. Okay, so I got my laptop right here, and I'm just going to pull up the MLS and look at some of these sold homes in the last 15 days. So this one was listed, I have one that I found, it's listed at $465 and the sold price is for $515. It was a cash deal and the sellers paid $0 of closing costs. Some of you might be thinking that this house is not worth that much, but what you need to understand is that the true value of a property is what someone's willing to pay. And that's cash. That's not a finance. That's not gonna foreclose. That's not gonna do a short sale. That's a cash deal. Now that house sold for $515, all of the other houses in that area are gonna be matching that price or be near it. So the thing is that the value of a property to that buyer, it wasn't worth $465. They had cash and to them it was worth $515. What's happening is these values will continue to rise until we get to a point where even cash buyers are not willing to pay that much. That I just found was listed for $450,000 and it sold for $465. It was a conventional loan and the seller paid no closing costs. So for this situation, let's just imagine that they put 3 or 5% down for the sake of this video. Well, in this case, this person spent an additional $15,000 because it was listed at $450,000. And if we were to assume that the house appraised for $450,000 and that they waived their appraisal, that means that this buyer could have potentially paid an additional $15,000. So this is why you need to have a little bit more money saved if you're looking at a nicer house in a good area that's, you know, remodeled, all that fancy stuff, because you're gonna be in a situation like this, unfortunately. Now, I'm not saying to do it and I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just giving you the facts. So if I put up the down payment and the closing cost numbers back up again with all the inspections and all of that stuff, and we add another $15,000, that was the true cost of buying this property. That's if you're willing to waive your appraisal. Now that takes a lot more risk, so your risk tolerance needs to definitely be a lot higher. But if you're competing with the nicer houses in the market, that's just what you have to bring to the table. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly run through some other examples of some homes that have sold. This one that I found was listed at $399 and sold for $415. It was a conventional loan and there was no closing costs paid by the seller. This next one was listed at $379, sold for $405, also no closing costs and a conventional loan. So what it's looking like to me, and from what I can judge on this specific part of town, $20,000 to $30,000 over list price seems to be that average price range that you need to put higher in order to get the house that you want. Okay, so let me explain to you how this works if it seems to be a little bit confusing. So if you offer anything over list price, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to come up with the cash. For example, let's say there's a house for $400,000. You make a $420,000 offer and you waive your appraisal. It doesn't guarantee you're gonna come up with $20,000. What happens is you're rolling the dice. The appraisal could come in at $420 and then, you know, you don't have to come up with any money. Or it could come in at $410 or $415 and you have to make up the difference. So it doesn't have to be a $20,000. It could be less, but at the same time, it could be more than $20,000. Because imagine if it appraises at $390 or $380. Now you're having to come up with a lot more money. So this is where putting a cap on things would be nice. So let's say we'll waive our appraisal, but if it appraises under $400,000, we'll renegotiate. A lot of times though, you don't have to necessarily just waive your appraisal entirely. This amount of $20,000 could be cut into smaller pieces. Maybe you can agree to a partial appraisal waiver. You can say, hey, we'll give you an extra $5,000 if it doesn't appraise, instead of guaranteeing that amount of money. But it looks like right now you're gonna have to have the ability to potentially put an additional $10,000 or $20,000 on the table to the cost of buying homes right now. Most costs on a house right now have been increased by an average $10,000 to $30,000. Now, sometimes people get away with not having to make up the difference, and they just say they're gonna pay more and the appraisal comes in at value, but that's not a guaranteed. They're willing to lose it. So it seems the nicer the house is, and hopefully if a cash buyer doesn't beat you out, you have to put closer to an additional 5 to 10%. And this obviously depends on, the price range of the house, comparable home sales, and location of the home. So you're gonna need an additional 5 to 10% to play around with, unless you get super lucky. But unfortunately, this is just the reality of this situation. I know it's tough, but my hope is that it starts to slow down soon, so it's not so impossible to buy a house. In reality, if you want a nicer house, you just have to put that additional 5 to 10% down. So if you're looking to buy a house, just start saving. Save. Right now, the most important part with buying here, there's less than 250 homes for sale in Davis and Weber County combined. That's about 1 month's supply of inventory. Just be sure to align yourself with a team that can help get you into a home, because you might want to buy here, but you're not going to be able to get into that home. That's something that we've mastered. That's something that we love. That's our passion. But the only way that we can help you is to reach out to us. You got to give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. Days and nights. We can help make that transition so much easier on you. So until next time, guys, I appreciate your support, and we'll catch you later.